Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, whatever time of day is with you today. Let's go ahead and do our new video for the day. Now, the video today is one that I thought was kind of an interesting one to think about as a preponderance. That might be the wrong word. Based off of the earliest trailers that we had for Kingdom Hearts 3, we seem to have three primary goals of our villains. And I'm saying villains because I see Organization 13, or the 13 Seekers of Darkness, and Maleficent and Pete as two separate entities. I'm not sure if Maleficent is going to pay any mind into this story arc as much as she'd probably want to be. Tried to hold my. Sorry, I apologize. I don't think she'll play as much of a story element as she wants to in this one. I think Maleficent is either going to have a part where it is not as villainous as we intend, or she's scheming for something deeper. Which is a really interesting and cohesive thought to think about as we continue on. One of the biggest things that we see with the game is there seems to be three main goals. First is life as a heart back into a puppet. Now, we see this the most with worlds like Toy Story. Big Hero 6, I think, is going to have a big arc for that, because I think Baymax is a very lifelike thing. The question is, does he have a heart? Has he developed a heart? The new Baymax or the old Baymax? Can those hearts be basically injected into other things? Because we know they can create artificial heartless. They might have to set up a new lab, but they can do it. That's not the point. But the point is, can you take a Blink, a Xion, or whatever her model number was, take a heart, jam it inside, and give it the power to summon a Keyblade? Now, I think this is a big deal for them, and it's kind of just something I thought of. The 13 Darknesses and the 7 Lights might not be everything. There might be more to it, is what I'm saying. So if there are, let's say, a few thousand Keyblade wielders who are of the light, and you wanted an army against them, for instance, you would need thousands or hundreds, or how many ever dandelions there are. You would need those thousands to combat them, which may be his ultimate goal. We don't know, because we don't have a concept of what his plan is yet. But with that said, I think it's an interesting concept to explore as far as the game is concerned. So we're going to be seeing them search for different ways of putting a heart into puppets. I really wish Moana came out in time. That's the only game that I think the other movie that would have been working really well with that. Because Te would be great as both the villain and the redemption arc for, let's say, Roxas. And this is a for example, everyone. I'm not saying this is the case. Please don't drip down my throat yet. Let's say Roxas has gone over to the side of the 13 Darknesses. This would be a way of showing redemption. Even though you are this violent, destructive property, you can be redeemed back into a good thing. And I'm saying thing because Te Fiti is a goddess, and goddesses don't work by our mortal laws. But with that said, we're going to have that as one of our stories. The second story is going to center around the Princesses of Heart, or the Pure Lights. I've heard it called both. I like Pure Lights better because it sounds better, because a pure light does not have to be a living thing, does not have to be royalty. See where I'm getting here? Yeah. So with that said, I think worlds like... By the way, some of these are going to overlap. Because Olaf is a great example of, can you give a heart to a snowman? Can you give a heart to Marshmallow? How do you do that? So forth and so on. So some of these stories are going to intersect, and they're not all going to be cut and dry. So Elsa and Anna are not just going to be the pure light story. I think it's going to overlap into when Elsa creates Olaf. Did she really create a brand new life with a heart and this whole thing? Same thing with Marshmallow. Does Marshmallow have a heart? And I think that's somewhere where we're going to see overlaps. But the second story, I'm trying to stay focused. I really am. I even had a script planned out for this. The second story is going to focus around the pure lights. In my previous video, one of my previous videos, I dictated a couple people cannot be pure lights, and no one fought me on it. I'm sticking by my guns on them. I'm also adding Elizabeth to that list. Elizabeth, whatever her name is. Elizabeth Swan, I think it is. She intentionally set Jack up to die. Her actions in and of themselves are evil. She did not pull the trigger, but she handed a loaded gun to someone who wanted to kill him. Done. But the second story is going to focus around the pure lights. So, and we have Anna, we have Elsa, we have Boo. And yes, I am counting Boo. We have Kyrie, Rapunzel. And that kind of leaves two up in the air, depending on which ways they're going to go with it. There's got to be more. They have to have more options here. And maybe in these additional worlds we'll find them. If they wanted to go full headlong into this, they could even use Aerith. And I'm going to hear a groan or two from that, and I'm groaning as well. I'm just using her as a for example because Aerith, or Eris, however you want to pronounce her name, was a pretty pure person. She just wanted to make the world better. And that's something that can be considered admirable. I don't consider things like breaking and entering into a rundown church as an evil act in and of itself. But the third story is going to focus around the box. And I'm going to say this isn't just the box, but it's also going to be the Master of Masters' possessions. So the box and a book of prophecies. Because we do not know what happened to all of the foretellers' books of prophecies. At least I couldn't find anything. If I overlooked it, please send me the mail. I'll be glad. Send me the information. I'll be glad to look it up. But the organization, again, I think Xehanort's already had his hands on a copy. That might even be what we search for throughout the game to reassemble the Book of Prophecies. Just putting that out there. That may be our collectible throughout the game. Instead of being Dalmatians, instead of torn pages for Winnie the Pooh, we are literally looking for the Book of Prophecies scattered throughout the worlds. That would be a really neat idea and something meaty for the lore people. For the completionists who don't really care about the lore, they can find that information and see what's going on behind the book, behind the lines. But also, there is something else locked in the Master of Masters trunk. And we don't know what it is. And I don't think it's a chest. I think it's a trunk. And that's my personal opinion based off of the shape and blah, blah, blah. I could go for days on the differences, but let's not. I think that is one of the really good things about what's going on is that this is something that can carry over through multiple worlds. So we know for sure Pirates of the Caribbean, that world will have a focus on the box. We know that Olympus, as well as being our starting world apparently, because I believe we are going to start there if we don't accidentally crash land in Twilight Town, but whatever, we're going to put that off to the side. Let's wait. Let's wait until we get to that part. Even though he said, "Let my heart be our guiding key," he put his sword. He put the keyblade out. Portal opens up. They fly through the portal. Doesn't mean they're going where they're intending to. They're going somewhere where his heart is leading him. Just because he's thinking of Hercules does not mean he is not subconsciously thinking about other people. His heart may be leading him to Traverse Town, or not Traverse Town, Twilight Town first, so he can catch up and find out what's going on there. So where we're not going to say that the two things are not interchangeable, I just think that maybe his heart is leading him somewhere else to begin with, and then once he figures out how to better hone it, that's when we go to Olympus. That's where we get the change of outfit. And even though he said we're not going to be revisiting worlds, this might be a little case where the flow takes us from Twilight to Olympus, back to Twilight to do the tutorial part, and then we go back to Olympus to finish up Olympus. That's speculation, of course. We know Nomura has sometimes a thing about over-promising and under-delivering. So we're going to just leave that there. But that is something to consider overall. Now, the heroes, I think Zigbar's conversation, and granted, you have to have been at the orchestra to hear the extra content and the extra lines, but we're going to put that off to the side. It's going to go over there for now. Right over there. By the way, anything that's getting pushed off to the side is unimportant for our current conversation. So Zigbar says essentially, we've laid out breadcrumbs for you, and you have no choice but to follow them. Just because we've done this doesn't mean you have to change who you are. In fact, you might find your destiny is just around the corner. Now, if you were to intentionally misframe those lines, you have no choice but to follow the breadcrumbs we've let out to you. Space, which is the second part of the conversation, and move that to the wrong part of the conversation, it gives a completely different connotation on what's going on. Zigbar could actually be encouraging him to do the right thing, even if it's for Zigbar's wrong reasons. So, if we take a situation where, they're being attacked, or I forgot what city they're taking place in, but anyway, if Thebes is being attacked, you have no choice but to save Thebes. If not, if Thebes is destroyed, then all of those innocent lives and all of those innocent hearts are destroyed because of your inaction. So instead of saying that we're doing this to find the box, he's saying you're going to do what we want you to do because we can control you through other people's actions. Really devious thing to do, in my opinion. And it's right here. It's underhanded. But I think he wasn't talking, because the way that they cut it up, it makes it imply that they're talking about Roxas, or they're talking about Riku, or Data Riku, or the kids in Traverse Town. The way that it's all set up is so different than the way that it's appearing. And that's the reason I wanted to do a lot of these conversation pieces, a lot of these speculation and conjecture, as someone tried to correct me online on Twitter. By the way, conjecture is an opinion. Speculation is an opinion. It depends on whether or not it's based off of data or if it's based off of no data, by the way. But with that said, the big thing is to realize that we don't know what's going on. The conversation between Zigbar and Ansem outside while they're in Twilight Town may not be anything related to Twilight Town. Really, it might not be. They might be talking about the mayor Now, they're talking about another vessel, but sometimes you might call a vessel a mouthpiece. A mouthpiece could be called a talking head. There's a lot of things that could be. Now, I'm stretching on that one because we probably are talking about another vessel. And if Data Riku cannot live up to the expectations that they want, they will probably destroy him. But that's not the point that I want to make here. Along with what they're going after, it is framed right now in such a way it's intentionally confusing for us. Scenes may not be even remotely connected. They might be connected entirely correct, so conversations may seem one way, and we're going to question it because there's a hard cut, there's another scene, then we cut back to that scene. So the biggest thing is I want to continue to think about these things. I want you to come with that journey on with me. So with that said, three focuses. Yeah, I'm horrible at this, by the way. Three focuses of the organization and Maleficent as well as Pete are going to be the box, the princesses, or the pure lights, whatever you want to call them. And finally, the turning puppets into real people. I think they know for a fact Pinocchio is not a pure light. Even if he was, they have discovered that he has no heart. Now, that leads to the fact that we might revisit... Jesus Christ, I can't say focus for the life of me. And I apologize for that. I really do. So, those are the three big goals I think that they have. And this is beyond the Keyblade War. This is beyond gathering light versus dark and Kingdom Hearts. All beyond that. The reason why summoning it is different than summoning it itself. How and why are commonly not connected together. And I think this is the same thing. I really do. Why is Ansem going along with this, knowing that he will die at the hands of Sora? Why is Xemnas doing the same? Same can be said of Xigbar, Larxene, Marluxia. A lot of these people, they've been given a second chance and they go right back to what they know. And it's kind of a sad thing when you think about it. But I'm going to call the video here. So just to let you know, I do have my Patreon links below. I have my Twitter, my Twitch. I won't be streaming tonight, as in the day that this goes up, which is Sunday morning. But I will probably be streaming Monday night. With that said, please, if you can throw a little support my way, please do. I am saving up for an Elgato, because if I'm going to throw in a capture card, I want it to be a quality one, as well as some new RAM for my computer. That way, when it comes around time for Kingdom Hearts 3, I can stream it directly without PlayStation Network blocking scenes, because they are under contract to do so, because the game makes the PlayStation block scenes. Something I personally don't like, by the way. If you want to subscribe, donate on Patreon, PayPal. I feel horrible doing this, by the way. I was raised in a completely different fashion. Asking for money is not something I do very well. But with that said, you have a great day, great morning, great afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you, and may joy be to you all.